Los Angeles Rams were a play away from dethroning the eventual champs, the Philadelphia Eagles. So with a conservative free agency period and an ultra-conservative draft, did they do enough to compete with the Eagles in 2025? Let's get into it. The LA Rams surprised a lot of people in their run last season in 2024, getting all the way to the divisional round and facing off with the Eagles in the snow in Philly, and was literally a fade route away from potentially dethroning the Eagles in that playoff game. Now they come back again with 2025 largely intact. They had some movement going on in the roster, not major. I think wide receiver is probably the biggest move that they made, and one would argue they might have upgraded that position in that space, but we'll talk about it. But yeah, I think they had a conservative free agency period, and they had an ultra conservative draft, and we'll talk about that as well. But the question is, what epic feats can they accomplish in 2025? Can they get over the hump? Can they compete and ultimately dethrone the Eagles? Are they division mates snipping at their heels? There's a lot to talk about. So let's get into this preseason preview for the 2025 season as we round out the NFC West. So the Rams are on the docket on this Friday. So we're going to talk about their offseason, their draft, and what their outlook is going to be for 2025. And can they ascend to a higher height with this roster? So starting off with the free agency period, like I said in the beginning, it was ultra conservative. I'll bring it up a little larger for you on the screen so you can get a good look at it. Ultra conservative, in its own right. Like I said, it's definitely a move that they did more resigning than signing, I guess you can say. Bringing back a lot of guys that they wanted to, keep or retain. This team, like a few other teams in the league, have a lot of, I guess you can say, ability to want to be loyal to their guys, right? So they want to be loyal to their guys, and they want to reward guys for playing well in their system. So outside of a few names at the top here, there are a lot of guys that either were here before or guys they resigned that they had holdovers in 2024. So starting at the top of the list, we can talk about the big name of this whole gambit is Davante Adams. As you can see, the bottom of the list, they moved on from Cooper Kupp. I think that was the biggest headline going into the offseason, what they were going to do with him, whether they're going to move on or bring him back. So they traded in Cooper Kupp for Davante Adams, give him a 2-year deal, $46 million. They went out and signed a Poona Ford. They had a large issue and big-time issue with the run game, as you saw in the Eagles game, where Saquon ran wild on them for the most of that entirety of that game. So they went out and got a really good run stopper in Poona Ford. 3 years, $30 million, former Charger. Really good run stopping DT. You stick him in the middle of your defensive line, and he's going to definitely make plays for you. Absolutely, positively, along with the other guys they have in house, the young budding rookies and young guys they have on that D-line already. He'll fit right in. So I love that move, what they did there. I mean, hell, the Chargers wanted to retain him. I wanted to keep him myself, but, it is what it is. You just move locker rooms, but, hey, Poona Ford over there in the Rams locker room versus the Chargers, he's going to be good for them. They signed, re-signed Coleman Shelton. He was a holdover from the Bears last year. He played for the Bears for 1 year, but he was with the Rams previously. So he's going into the 7th season. So he spent it largely with the club. He spent 1 year away and came back. So they signed him. They signed a guy by the name of Nate Landman, to a 1-year deal linebacker. Then they get into their re-signings. They re-signed Alaric Jackson to a 3-year, $57 million deal. Their left tackle. They re-signed Jimmy Garoppolo to back up Matt Stafford. They re-signed Tutu Atwell to a 1-year, $10 million deal. They re-signed Laren Mutchinson to a 1-year deal, D lineman, and they re-signed Akila Witherspoon to a 1-year deal, cornerback. They also re-signed Ronnie Rivers, that is their 3rd or 4th running back at this point. They restructured Matt Stafford's deal and kept him in the house. They need to rework some money and some dollars there. So they did that. So they brought their franchise quarterback back for another run, maybe 1 or 2 more years, I think, in the twilight of his career, I think, with the club, but he's still playing at a high level, in my opinion. And like I said, I alluded to earlier, they released Cooper Kupp. So again, not a big splashing, flashy type of offseason free agency wise. They like I said, they definitely bring in or brought back the guys they want to bring back that they want to have in house and keep on the team going forward. So yeah, so that was their free agency period. So getting to their draft, Like I alluded to at the top of the video, they had a ultra conservative draft. I would argue that they're more focusing on 2026 draft for whatever reason. They know some things potentially money wise or roster wise that they really want to go heavy into the 2026 draft into. So they kind of balked or got out of the higher picks in this draft. They traded their first round pick away to Atlanta for a future 2026 first rounder. So they're gonna have 2 first rounders, I believe, in 2026. They messed around in the second round. I think they actually ended up trading up in the second to get Terrence Ferguson, which I love. I think he was probably my 4th tight end on the board. I think he had the 2 big guys, Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren, and then he had Mason Taylor for me, and then Terrence Ferguson was right behind him. So then picking Terrence Ferguson up at the Boston at tight end room was definitely a great get. The tight end from Oregon. The third round, they moved around and got Josiah Stewart, another edge rusher to go along with Jared Verse and Kobe Turner and Brian Young and those guys. So adding to that room, I think that was a great pickup from Michigan. 4th round, they went out and got a running back by the name of Jaquez Hunter and from Auburn. 5th round, they got D lineman Ty Hamilton from Ohio State. 5th round, they got Chris Paul Jr. from Ole Miss, linebacker. In the 7th round, they got wide receiver Konanata Mumfield from Pittsburgh. I'm not really familiar with his game, but hey, he's a 7th round pick, so hey, we'll see how he makes the roster or what he does in camp. But that was their draft. I mean, again, like I said, it was ultra conservative. Outside of picking up Terrence and Josiah, I don't see any major contributors on this list. I do think they need help in the interior linebacker room, so maybe Chris Paul Jr. can be that guy. Really want to hire my draft projections in regards to him being a day 1 starter for the linebacking crew that was coming out in the 2025 draft. Solid player, but I think there's some limitations in his game. So I would like to see how he pans out when he comes into camp and produces pace in this next week or two to see if he can carve out a role in this team. But I think he may be relegated to special teams to start out, but we'll see how things go. But outside of that, developmental depth pieces. And then I will say this about the Rams in its entirety. You know, the Rams do things a little bit different. They do things in regards to system-wide moves. You know, it's almost like a different version of the Patriots where they have their system and they draft guys and they bring in guys that fit their system more so than drafting guys just on talent alone. They just don't go out and get flashy players that you have to fit within their system, what they like to do offensively and defensively. So this could be one of those things as well. There's a lot of obscure names. There's always been a lot of obscure names in the big system. You haven't had a whole lot of splashes. You had a couple of big names here and there. You like say Devontae Adams, your Jalen Ramsey's, and things of that nature. Matt Stafford as a quarterback, but you know the hard working blue collar guys are definitely I guess you could say not highly heralded from a name perspective. They don't have a lot of name recognition, but they end up fitting well into the system and they coach up well in their system. So they definitely produce in that facet. So we'll see how these guys shake out as well as the free agencies they bought in or re-signed and see how these guys pan out for them in the 2025 season. But we'll see how things roll. And getting to their trades, they did make one trade. They got Jonah Jackson off to Chicago. Chicago needed another O lineman in the interior to help Caleb Williams' development, so they end up trading Jonah Jackson away. And I think that made room for Coleman Shelton to come in to play center and move Steve Avila over to guard. His natural position, I think he feels more comfortable there. Of course, Alaric and Rob Havenstein are going to fill out the roles at left and right tackle, but then you got Kevin Dawson coming in playing right guard. So, yeah, I think Dave, hopefully did enough to retool it online because I think that was a question mark going into the season, whether or not they can get a little bit better on the O-line and have more cohesion there. So if they have more cohesion there, I think the offense will run well. So if they can gel and do things right and keep everybody healthy, because between injuries and just lack of cohesion in 2024, that kind of gave them roadblocks throughout the season. They kind of hit certain walls and certain spaces because the O-line just wasn't playing up to the snuff and keeping Matt Stafford upright. So we'll see how things go in that particular way. But again, if they can do that, I think the offense will be fine. So when we talk about their, just the overall outlook, before we get into their schedule, I think that the particular, way of doing things that McVay likes to accomplish is his own, and his success is successful. I mean, he's definitely had a lot of success in the league. He's one of the better offensive minded and just overall general head coaches in the league. He's one of those few that can be a high end play caller and run his team well. One of the younger guys, more innovative guys. He's one of the first people that didn't play his starters in preseason at all, kept them healthy. And a lot of people have followed suit in that space. So he's definitely made waves. He's also taken coaches in his staff groomed them and sent them off, and they've had head coaching jobs themselves. There's a lot of people on the McVay tree in the league right now. So I think they're doing things the right way. It's just a matter of how far can they go. I think they are poised to have a uptick in their season. It's just a matter of what these guys do on offense. Like I mentioned about their cohesion on O line, and then we flip over to defense. It's really just a matter of what can they step up and play a little bit better. Because I think that was the only real Achilles heel in the 2024 run, is that the fact that they didn't produce well enough on the defensive side of the ball when they needed to. And I'd herald this front D line to being one of the better D lines. I think it's shaping up to be one of the best young D lines in the league, because you're talking about having a superstar in the making, Jared Verse, who I think is a defensive player of the year candidate this year. I think he's going to have a stellar year. I called his dominance and his production the moment he got drafted. I like that particular move. I like Kobe Turner. I like Brian Young's production. I like what they're doing there. They added Puna Ford, like I said, to that line. That just makes it a little bit better. And then you add Josiah Stewart to the edge rushing room to give that rotational edge rushing room. So you got another able and capable body to rush the passer. So that just makes Jared Verse's job even easier. So yeah, I like what they're doing in large spaces. I think they're doing pretty well for themselves. It's just a matter in the question of what the linebacking core, because I think that's particular area is going to be tested. It was tested last year in the run game, especially, and it didn't hold up well. And I think the secondary as well is going to be another issue. I think the secondary is going to get tested. I think that he could have done a little more to address those areas, maybe bring a little more talent. But yet again, I'm not going to browbeat him too much, because again, McVay likes to do his things a certain way. He has a certain system. Him and his defensive coordinator, I believe is Chris Shula, and they just do things a different way. They run a system, and they just bring guys in and run their system. They don't necessarily need, the high end corners and safeties to quote unquote, get things done. Now, the question remains is that, yes, you can do things, run your system a certain way, but can you lead that to the point where you can beat a team like the Eagles, the Lions, the Buccaneers, the 49ers in your division, I guess you can say the Commanders even, because they look like they're ascending. So, can this particular defensive front and secondary, especially the linebacker, the second level linebackers and the third level corners and safeties, can they hold up in run support and coverage enough to be able to beat those top end teams? I think that's the only question mark that you had. They're all well coached team. They're always going to be well coached, and will that be enough? Because the Eagles have a lot of talent, but they're also well coached too. Just to give it a quick example, so that's going to be the delineation. You having a well coached team, but they have a well coached team and a more talented team could be the I guess you can say the line in the sand. So we'll see how things roll, but I do like the Eagles are doing as well as what the Rams are doing. So I think that we might be looking at a particular situation where they might be, two bulls meeting in the China shop in the conference title game. But we'll see how things roll throughout the season. You still got to play the games, obviously, but yeah, they're doing things the right way. So we'll see how the Rams do things in 2025. But I do like what they're building. I think they're nice, young, and spry, and I think they will make noise. And I think this is their division to lose. Honestly, it's just a matter of how things shake. Now, when we talk about the schedule, it has its moments. I guess you can say it's not too rough, but you got some games on here that you can definitely pinpoint that it's going to be box office and definitely going to be interesting to watch. They open up with the Texans right off. Like, that's going to be a good game. Going to be a good game. So open up with the Texans. That's going to be a good battle test against that defense. See what you're made of. Going to test your mettle. Then you get into week 2. You got the Titans, which should be an interesting game. How Cam Ward's going to look coming off his first game, which is a brutal one. Then you come in right in week 3, just like I said, with the Eagles. You got the Eagles on week 3, so that's a Super Bowl. A playoff rematch, and we'll see how things go. That's going to be test you well, and that's going to give you a good barometer with those first 3 matchups of who you really are. Then you kind of get a break with the Colts. Then you got a divisional game with the 49ers, depending on how they look like, and then you got the Ravens. Ravens, going to be a good test. Definitely going to be a good test. So you got to play that in Baltimore, ironically. So that's another one. Jaguars, we don't really know. Then you get a bye week. Saints should be a good one for you to win. Another one with 49ers, Seahawks. Then you got Buccaneers coming in. Panthers should be a good battle. Cardinals. You got the Lions week 15. Seattle again week 16. Falcons week 17. And finish up with the Cardinals on week 18. So yeah, I think they have some stretches where they can get things rolling, get things going. But those tough games against the Texans, the Eagles, of course, both games, the 49ers and the Ravens for sure. and the Lions in Week 15 is going to be the biggest marquee matchup that they have. If they can at least come out of that above 500, they should be looking pretty good to lock up a 1 or 2 seed in the NFC. So we'll see how things roll, but you got to play the games, got to get it done. So overall outlook, I won't give their offseason grades too much of a high accolade because, like I said, it was super conservative. I did like their first 2 picks, so I'll give them a C+ as far as offseason grade. I think that it is probably about I would say low end 10, high end 13 win team. And from a position perspective, see how they do. But I do like what they're building here, and I think they're going to be well coached. So a well coached team with a elite franchise quarterback, elite weapons, and a good well coached defense is going to win you a lot of ball games in NFL. That'll take a lot of guesswork out. So the games you're supposed to win, you should win, and you just got to figure out how to way to win the tough ones. That's what it all boils down to. So we'll see how the Rams do in 2025. But I like what they're building, I like what they're doing. I just think they need a little more firepower on the defensive secondary line and the linebacker core. If they get that, then they're off and running. But we'll see how the guys that's in-house play and how they do. So that's pretty much it, man. We'll see how the Rams do, and we'll see how things shake out in training camp, and hope they can stay healthy and get things rolling come September. So as always, man, here's the Hit Squad's tags. We finish up with the NFC West here. We're going to do the AFC West next week. That's going to round out our preseason previews for next week. Get that done. So if you need to hit these guys up on any Commanders, Chiefs, or Chargers news, please do that on the socials. If you're looking for the Lockdown Defense Sports Network and any faster, we're on all platforms that you can get your smartphone added to. Even got a Gmail address if you need to shoot us an email. So hit us up on the socials if you had any questions about the network and or NFL football in its entirety. We're definitely here to answer your questions. So as always, man, like I said, check out our previews, hit that subscribe button if you had not done so already, to let the YouTube algorithms know we're doing big things out here. We're trying to grow this channel to higher heights. And then we'll be back next week with another set of preseason previews to wrap this up and get ready for the NFL season in 30 days, pretty much 30 days from now. So yeah. So in the meantime, between time, I'm your man, Coach Defense. You got to do one thing and one thing well. You got to step up and lock it down.